Good afternoon. I tried recording this video last night to upload it and discuss it then I realized I didn't record any audio. It was kind of late and the executive decision to go to sleep was made. So we're gonna talk about it today. We're gonna be talking about GameStop, we're gonna be talking about Bitcoin, and that's about it. Very simple. Um, just very simple ideas that we're gonna be discussing. I might be wrong, I might be right, but just some funny thoughts that came through my head, right? So for GameStop, um, we've been looking at the stock for 4 years and how the chart has developed since. And some curious things to note have come since. Um, People have talked about the horns, two peaks, and the patterns that have risen and can be seen throughout the whole chart. Um, but I also was tinkering with the idea of like I'm gonna say called perfect, quote unquote, not the term that I was looking for, but distribution happening um through space and time in the stock market. Some the stock distributes shares throughout the entire price range. Like let's imagine, which then again this might not be the case, but let's imagine you have a constant shortage of stock happening in the market, right? So how will the system ensure it's always making money? It would have to trade with itself constantly and make sure it's front running any trade and making sure that it touches back on certain key areas that it might have missed in a trade to make sure it's profitable, right? So since this news, right, we have had stock this retracement is made from the lows right here before the knees to the highs and extended across the board since then. And we can see how the price has acted accordingly based on these levels, right? At the high, we came down all the way to this very interesting level here that we're going to be talking a lot about, which is the first leg since this knees, right? This has proven to be the best area of support for the stock since then, based on the I want to say PE ratio that the stock had coming into um, April last year, which is where it headed to. It came here once and it went there twice, right? So first, we had this news, then we had our first appearance. Well, happened before in timeline, but we have the first huge twin peaks. The horns, it's something beautiful to behold. You can see how the price goes up. It spends very little time above the key resistance at 382, comes down, breaks the support at the 618, test this leg right here. Very interesting how it comes back down to test the first leg, which is dead over here, right? And then it sort of like dilly-dallies around underneath looking for support, accumulating. We have a lot of accumulation happening right here. And then it goes for an extra leg up. And within itself, looking at the daily chart, we can see how the price sort of was in this area for a while, right? We can see the points forming over here, the same way they did kind of like over here, but then the price goes down and under, and then it struggles to hold this resistance to break through, goes to the 618. It struggles to get to the 0.5, twin peaks, goes back down, um, goes under the 786, which is a big area of support. It catches it, sort of like all the way down here, but it's fine. Comes back up. It tests the 618. Now it fails that, fails it twice, and then it goes under. Right. Another thing that I'm going to point out is this line that goes here. It's very haphazardly put there. It's just to give you an idea of where the price is heading since, right? If we were to make this any accurate, right, by looking at, you know, the lower lows, lower lows, lower lows, we know that this stock is in a downtrend. So expecting it to go down is just, the rational thing to do at that point. Of course, we are looking at the resistance levels, trying to see for any breakthrough and trying to find any support. It sort of does here, but it kind of never happens again. So we go down and we touch these lows right here at 9. Happens to be the same area of support that formed the first flag before. Sneeze. Very interesting. Which then again happened right here. We had a very little owned sneeze, right? So this little leg right here is very interesting to me, right? Because this is the first leg, sort of like the sneeze that we have. And we have already tested it, right? Tested it for support once, right? Kind of like right here, tested one, tested it twice, right? The second test happens to be higher than the first test, which let's say makes sense for the sake of keeping it simple, even though it kind of pretty arbitrary to say it makes sense. Um, Either way, we can see this other line that I decided to draw here, and we can see what I'm going to say. It's sort of I don't know. Let's put this over here to give you a better perspective. An angular momentum of a move. Say you throw something at this angle, the ball comes over here, bounces, and it goes out that way. And the support level pretty much comes along with it. Pretty much almost a complete mirror image of this side in terms of the what I call it parabolic support. As we sort of like ride this channel as our main support, and we create our little little waves coming up, right? Support, little smaller lines of support, something happened here and broke down, but that's neither here nor there at this point. The other thing we're going to discuss, it's just painting more pictures in your head, trying to see if you can toy around with these ideas and find something that you find interesting and or worth thinking about and developing further. You can do all your own research, seeing if anything makes sense to you and anything interesting comes up that might you know make sense of all this. We're going to talk about the ADX in a second, but we can see here how also, despite this being a huge break of this resistance, we came back down under it, and we so like here, we spent some time down here consolidating. We kind of got rejected here, and now we have gone up, come back down, tested for support. We didn't even make it all the way down. We're actually sort of like riding a little bit of a wave up here, which might not be a strong leg of support, but it's doing the job for now. Either way, we know that our main line of support is still underneath this fib level of the 786, which by October would still be at around $28. But there's many things happening with the stock that make it kind of bullish in its own and form these trends, right? On the ADX, I was looking for sort of a pattern, to try to predict a move, right? It makes sense to me to try to think about the future and how looking at something now can tell something that may happen later. It's pattern recognition at its best. And I started looking at these big peaks that we've had on the ADX, and I was like, okay, let's look at the most recent one. And the price went up to, if I can get this one right, on $35, right? And how many times has the stock done that since 2021? Not many times. So when we look at the times that it has happened, we have it happen last week. We have it happen during the May run-up, April run-up when Rowan Kitty came back. And we had it happen all the way back on this time, right? Okay, so let's focus on those for a second and see anything that happened around that time that may seem interesting or curious, something that spikes our interest, right? If it spikes the interest and it's worth thinking about and trying to look for a pattern or something, then we'll look at it, which is what I did. And I found something very interesting, and so I thought, let's dig deeper into it. So during the sneeze, we saw sort of like a flag on the ADX forming down here. We sort of saw this type of consolidation happening. We have these like three major waves, right? The same way we have some, you can divide this into 3 waves or even more, but more consolidation. Volume wise, we'll have to look at this and determine which was bigger. But after that, we saw 2 peaks, and very interestingly enough, we saw 2 peaks. And then we saw 1 peak right before that leg of support. Okay, very interesting. And then we saw these 2 massive spikes, right? One next to the other, where the stock went to 120 on the second peak. And zoom into this without destroying my chart. Moving things around. So here we go. So we see the first peak happening right here, which the stock went over this 786, got rejected, attacked all the way down, and then it posted a massive green candle through it. And then the next day, it went all the way to 120, but also died down at the same. We have to think about the volume at the time, the amount of suppression that occurred. So that's why on the ADX it shows us a death in positive in buy volume, I'm gonna say, positive pressure, whatever the fuck you want to call it, and the stock sort of like dies down because of the massive shorting occurring at these levels, right? Then it gaps all the way back down, tests it for support, and then it sort of like fights its way up and does the last steps of consolidation. I call it, or try to call it, perfect distribution of short positions and positive volume, trying to make sure that every short that can be made is made against any positive buys that may have happened during here or during this time. Sort of like bottling the buy volume here to short something over there, and then passing it on to the next day, and then putting it over here so then they can short it with something else over there, and just creating this massive profitable front running business, right? Which requires it to pretty much take everything that you put in and distribute it with something else in the future, matching it with short short orders, short stocks, and giving you pretty much the worst deal that you can have, which is pretty much the stock that you're buying, you paying for the short that is being used against you. It's fun. It's fine. I mean, it's been fine for everybody that's been holding GameStop for a while. You know, we just keep on hodling. So either way, back to the topic. So we have the ADX, right? We see a little bit of a pattern here. We see a little bit of a pattern there. We see a little bit of a pattern here, and we see a little bit of a pattern there. We have two little twin peaks. This one being sort of like hidden by what happened during the offering, right? So we have this massive uptick in negative volume, on sell volume, shorts possibly bouncing their sheets against notes that they were getting or whatever the fuck the case may be. Another peak right here after the consolidation. And then we have 1 and we're missing 2. Like, okay, interesting, very interesting. If it's actually gonna go down like that, which then again it might not. But then the last time we saw the ADX go this high, we had the first support for the May run up, right? Happening here in early May. We have our first spike in the ADX, and then we have a little bit of a consolidation, a little bit of a sell down, now like happening right here at the same levels. Who would have thought, right? And then we have a massive peak that goes from the Friday 10th to Monday and Wednesday, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, which if anybody can count, you can count that yourself. See if it makes sense to you for something to happen like what happened in May during the next couple of days, or something to happen like the way it happened during the sneeze, which then again sort of happened in a similar fashion. We had our first peak, we had a little bit of consolidation as the price went sideways, and then we have 2 massive ones, right? 2 massive peaks the same way we did in May. Who would have thunk it, right? Either way, that's we're looking at. Was trying to look for also sort of like an angle, right, in which you could predict how high would the next leg be. And if I'm not saying that this is right, but if you take the second peak and the first peak, and the second peak and the first one from the leg up that supports the next move, then that puts you sort of like around the same level. If you do a 1 to 2, then it puts you a little bit higher, but then again, who knows what might happen. Not me. I'm making this video because I want to sort of put my thesis out there and see if anything interesting happens along those lines. What I am expecting to see is for the price to come back up to the 48 levels and test this resistance right here. Get rejected here. I want to see it get rejected, depending, of course, on any news that may come out or anything. If nothing comes out, then something like this, test right over here, which the fib extension from the last beatdown that we got, it puts it around a similar level on the 261, and we just go test that, get rejected, form a little bit of a handle, double bottom, and like a weird ass up handle, and then go for something higher, the 382 or the 236 later on. But then again, with our eyes on this, we may have something as big as this knees, probably 3/4 of the size of this knees, half or less. Who knows? Might be total bullshit. And there's no way we can know that unless we find out. We gotta fuck around and find out. If we look at how far this went, we have here the first leg up. It went over the 423 and did this massive fucking. The same thing we could expect possibly, that it goes over the 423 at 61.15, right? And do something crazy nasty over here, right? If we take, this is just me throwing some bullshit here, right? But let's say if we could take something like this and we grab it without messing the rest of the chart up and plot it. I'm gonna plot this over here, right? Like that. We may have a move coming up that takes us to this levels up here, untested new territory, right? I don't know. Just something to think about. Oh, ignore how far down this went. I was just doing a couple things, trying to reverse the table, throw it upside down and sideways, 69 and seeing if anything came up that looked cute enough for an idea. But other than that, let's look at Bitcoin. The thoughts on Bitcoin are pretty simple. It makes no sense for GameStop to buy Bitcoin at all-time highs or spend billions of dollars on it at all-time highs. You could take this line yourself and draw it and see that there is a massive megaphone type structure on Bitcoin with this tops where we have this massive resistance, and it makes no sense to buy it at that high. You can just put it from here to here and you will see that it reaches all the way over there. It just creates this massive channel, like megaphone type channel where there's a clear resistance. And I don't know if unless you're super massively bullish about something, or for whatever the fuck reason, I don't know why, you will see that it doesn't make any sense for it to go over. Of course, there's a lot of buzz about Bitcoin, but in my opinion, I'm more of a gold guy. If there was a solar flare tomorrow, we would lose power, or we were to lose power all over the world. Bitcoin won't be worth anything. It just won't be worth anything. The world will probably go back to the gold standard, And the richest people will probably the ones who have physical gold on them, because banking systems will go down. And there's a lot of little things like that, right, that we have to think about, and we usually think about whenever the world is not looking great, I want to say, which it's not doing it right now. But as bullish as you may be on Bitcoin, I don't know. I just don't think spending $6 billion of a company's balance sheet on it, or 1.5 for that matter, which is what was raised for it, or other cryptocurrencies, makes any sense at this level. So um, I'm curious to see what they have in store for us in terms of GameStop and any future plans, any future announcements, other than the earnings report coming up over the next 1 or 2 weeks, maybe. Right, they might delay that, but just throwing it out there as food for thought. And yeah, between this happening, Bitcoin crashing, well, not crashing, but coming down from historical resistance, and Ryan Cohen not buying the whole amount that he had of money available on Bitcoin, or if he bought and cashed out some of it, whatever it is that they are doing, or they were doing, or they are planning to do, I am bullish because it makes sense. It's not something haphazardly being thrown. I think anybody that's shaming GameStop for not throwing their whole balance sheet at Bitcoin, um, I think all of them are grifters. All of them have and are able to see this exact same thing. So telling your friend to buy Bitcoin at the top, right, and then hold it with no plan whatsoever, is just pretty much asking for them to lose money. Is it makes no sense if you look at this, right? You don't tell your friends to buy the top, unless they are serving as your exit liquidity or something, which doesn't make for a good friend. Um, oh, and that's it. That's actually the end of the video. I have nothing else to say. I just wanna hear some thoughts, some opinions, and I'll make another video if there is another video to make. We'll see if I'm wrong. We'll see if I'm right. I really don't care. I just wanted to make this video to keep some score, right? Keep myself accountable of my thoughts, my thesis, and if I'm gonna be right or I'm gonna be wrong. Live and learn. Goodbye.